Right, we are back Tuesday afternoon for another edition of Couples Debate. Roll the intro. Couples Debate. Couples Debate with Jason and Rachel. Podcast. Okay, Tuesday afternoon, 3:20. 30th of October 2018, and we are back here with Couples Debate. With me on the other side, I've got my lovely wife, Rachel. How are you, baby?
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
Phew.
Very hot.
Scorcher.
It's a scorcher.
Do we always talk about the weather?
We always do. And we always complain about the weather.
We always complain. Today it's 31 degrees, isn't it?
Sure. Where's the rain? Where's the rain?
Yeah, I'm drinking a lovely beer, yeah. And check the drains are blocked again here in the street we live, eh? Must walk past and you got that stench of other people's feces running past your yard.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about it.
All right, let's get into it. All right. Today we're going to talk about racism and bigotry. Yeah, everybody knows that racism and bigotry, not only in South Africa but all over the world, is a problem. So I got a special guest with me today, Shadrack. How are you, Shadrack?
I'm fine. I'm just saying hello to all the listeners at home. Hope that you guys are having a good afternoon, because we're definitely going to have a good conversation today.
All right, let's get on to it. Let's get on to this podcast. Let's get on to it. Okay, Shadrack, my man, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to join you guys on this fine afternoon.
Okay, for those of you out there, Shadrack works with me. We both in the cargo industry, security industry, if you like. Okay. Like I've told Shadrack, and Shadrack agrees with me, we're not going to speak where we work and for which company we work, because people out there, they're very sensitive, and then they say, oh, he's talking on behalf of the company. You know what I mean, Shadrack?
Exactly. I mean, it's safe to say that at this point, everybody knows that organizations and enterprises, there's a lot of red tape. And just to be on the safe side, we can disclose all the info, but just keep everybody safe.
Look, basically, we're just going to generalize here. I mean, I'm not going to name politicians' names in it. I mean, you know, they get very sensitive.
True.
But it seems that these days politicians are the celebs of South Africa. Would you agree?
I mean, we're looking at the margins. They are more on TV compared to the actual celebrities. So I might safe to say they are the celebrities.
No, they are celebs. Politicians are the celebs. And then I'm going to say this straight. Politicians are the one that drive racism in this country. They do. They drive it.
I mean, it's safe to say at this point, it's true. Any altercation can happen, but within our country, South Africa specifically, if an altercation happens between black and white, then, you know, it ends up on all social medias.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, before we get into it, there's just a couple of videos that I want to play. And, okay, obviously the listeners out there, you can't watch it, but you can listen into it. The first video that I want to play is from a Dr. Phil show. Again, for for copyright reasons. I'm not monetizing on this podcast. I'm just simply for the listeners out there that you can listen and hear how their mindset is on it. Okay, I'm gonna go with the first one. It's a young girl. It's a young black girl in America who thinks she's white.
I'm a Caucasian because everything about me is different from an African American. I have naturally straight hair. My hair isn't nappy. It doesn't require weave. My nose is not giant like African Americans. My lips are perfect. They're not too big and they're not too small. They're just perfect. My ears, I don't have black people ears because they're really giant. Most African Americans speak ghetto. Well, when it comes to black people, I think they're all ugly and I have nothing in common with them. I'm different from African Americans because I'm white. My figure is just like Kim Kardashian, and she's a wonderful role model. I I act and I think like a white person instead of a black person. I believe that I'm completely and utterly better than them. Like, we're on two different levels. Like, okay, African Americans are here, I'm here. White people act and think just way more mature than African Americans. Black people, they think in a criminal way. When I think about African Americans, I feel like asking them, what is wrong with them? They're really dangerous. If an African American is on the same street as I am, I'll cross the street to avoid their chaotic, thuggish ways. Are you okay? I'm irritated. I'm sorry. I just know that I'm white. I mean, she might not know that I'm white, but I know that I'm white. I can feel it through my veins. I feel it through my blood. I tell my mom I'll never be like any of those Negroes. My mom tries to criticize me about my supposed race. I tell her she's just ignorant. There's nothing wrong with my views or beliefs because I have freedom of speech and everything I'm saying is true.
Yo. That's not racism. That's bigotry.
True.
Would you agree? That's bigotry.
True. That's a person's opinion.
That's a person's opinion. I mean, people get very offensive on that what she said there. She thinks like a white, although she is black, but she thinks white, and she thinks that she's better. Okay, now that's the part where the bigotry also becomes into racism, because she's stating that she's thinking she's better. What's your views on what you just saw there, Shadrack?
Well, this is basically a very conflicted person. It's a person that seems not to deal with the fact that they are African. Well, it could rely on a couple of, I would say, societal ties, or I would say personal opinions. But at this point, this person has got a very vile mentality of what they believe in and what they should strive for in life. Because obviously they are disorientated, according to me, according to the information that the young lady is giving off the video. So it's a person that's basically just in search of who her identity is, and she identifies more with, I would say, what she sees on social media and what would pass for her as a better or privileged.
Better or privileged, exactly, privileged. That is a big word that comes to mind in South Africa, especially on social media. Rachel, you want to quickly give us quickly your two definitions? I've got them there for you. Do the first definition on racism and bigotry. I mean, I know the listeners out there do know about it, but you always have that one listener. You know, this is where we're educating the listener to explain to them the definition of racism and bigotry. You want to go ahead, Rachel?
Okay, racism. Prejudice, discrimination and antagonism direct against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Bigotry is the intolerance between those who hold different opinions from oneself.
Exactly what we just spoke about now. But the discrimination, that we'll talk about it later. Let's go on to the next video quickly. I want to play you the next video quickly on, this is a Muslim lady. Okay, again, it's an American video, but let's just watch the video, but this is very deep. This is a deep, hardcore video, this.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace to you all. My name is Saba Ahmed. I'm a law student at American University. I am here to ask you a simple question. I know that we portray Islam and all Muslims as bad, but there's 1.8 billion Muslim followers of Islam. We have 8 million plus Muslim Americans in this country, and I don't see them represented here. But my question is, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons? How can we ever end this war? The jihadist ideology that you talk about, it's an ideology. How can you ever win this thing if you don't address it ideologically?
Great question. I am so glad you're here, and I am so glad you brought that up because it gives us an opportunity to answer. What I find so amazing is since the beginning of this panel, which we are here about Benghazi attack against our people, not one person mentioned Muslims. We are here against Islam, or we're launching war against Muslims. We are here to discuss how 4 Americans died and what our government is doing. We were not here to bash Muslims. You were the one who brought up the issue about most Muslims, not us. And since you brought it up, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big as the United States. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died. Almost 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? And since you are the only Muslim representative, applause till the end. Thank you.
Wait till she's not finished yet. She's not
And
finished.
since you're the only Muslim representative in here, you took the limelight instead of speaking about why our government, and I assume, are you an American? You're an American citizen. So as an American citizen, you sat in this room and instead of standing up and saying a question or asking something about our 4 Americans that died and what our government is doing to correct the problem, you stood there to make a point about peaceful, moderate Muslims. I wish you brought 10 with you to question about how we can hold our government responsible. It is time we take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs and stop calling it.
Yo, hey, what do you think of that, Shadrack? Hey?
It's the truth. It's the actual truth. I mean, we hide behind the good, but then behind that good, there is so much bad that we actually need to pay attention to.
But like she said, political correctness. We're hiding behind political correctness here because we are brainwashed. Our indoctrination, how we are brought up. This is the thoughts that people have. And I mean, we just don't experience it in our country. This is a thing that's worldwide.
It's everywhere. It's not just one country orientated. We are looking at this as a grand scope.
Yeah, of course. Look, to give a bit more in depth, I've got another video that I also want to play. This is from an ex-KGB operative, if you want to call it.
Interesting.
And he explains how a nation can get brainwashed. And after the video, I want to give my words and how I think people in this country are also brainwashed. Am I too deep now for you, Shadrack?
Well, let's just play the video and then we're going to get back on this subject matter.
I'm going to fast forward a bit to where he starts talking.
He escaped to the West in 1970 after becoming totally disgusted with the Soviet system, and he did this at great risk to his life. He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. When the Soviets use the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts.
I'm gonna stop it there. Demoralization. 15 to 20 years. Doesn't that ring a bell? How many years into democracy are we now in this country? Already 24, eh?
True. True.
So, do you think South Africa has been demoralized?
I mean, when we look at the Western powers and all powers that happen to be in the world, all countries at this point have suffered demoralization, and other obvious states whereby they can be brainwashed or controlled.
Yeah, of course.
True. On almost all levels, on all aspects of the country.
Propaganda, the media.
I mean, they're all tools.
They're all tools.
They're all tools. Ultimately, we can say, or even from the proof that we can see from what's happening on each and every day of our lives, we can swear that there's something happening. The people that are in power, they know a little bit more, which is something that they do not disclose to the rest of us, and then we are only just left to hope and guess and fill up the gaps. But for a normal human being, not necessarily normal, but for somebody with an investigative mind, that's when you start questioning. And then when you question, you go a little bit deeper. They say everything can be hidden in books because they are written, but numbers cannot lie. So when you start looking at the stock markets, you start looking at the economy, you start looking at processes like your recessions, your thereby Americans, they had the Great Depression. But when they had the Great Depression, the country that they were at war with, which was Germany was booming at the time.
Yeah, and this Great Depression we're talking about is 1929.
True.
True. When Wall Street crashed, it affected the whole world.
The whole world. We were all affected, all of us. But one thing that stands out for me is that while everybody was affected, Germany seems to be thriving. And at that time, Germany was the only one country in the whole world that said, I'm not going to go with the United States. I'm actually going to go against their United States.
Yeah, and bearing in mind, Germany's also got strict laws, especially when it comes to people that deny the Holocaust, that it was never real. Whoever gets caught denying it gets locked up in prison, goes to court and gets locked up.
It's actually a quite interesting story, because there's some people that would actually agree with what you were saying, and they'd rather shut up instead of
yeah, it's
voicing out
safe to shut up. Yeah.
It is.
No, it's true. But look, we have to be so careful what we say. Is my microphone working all right? Seems like I'm going away. We have to be so careful what we say now, because listeners out there, whoever listening, they can get offended and maybe report us.
But then we live in a world whereby there's so many rules on everything. They claim that we've got freedom of speech, but then there's so many legalities that you could actually say go into this freedom of speech. So if they can say and state in the mandatories that we do have freedom of speech, but at a point whereby they can even still direct and sort of like hold responsible for what comes out of our mouth, do we really have freedom of speech? Can you really say that we do have freedom of speech if people want to dictate what we say?
Not really, because double standards seems to be taking a big time effect in this country. It's okay for one race to say something, and then if another race says something, then he gets locked up.
Double standards.
I mean, we've seen the Adams, the Lombard's, Vicky, the penny sparrow, but a lot of people think that the penny sparrow doesn't exist. They say she's fake. And again, coming back to demoralization, I mean, thousands of people are saying that penny sparrow is not real. Was it done intentionally? Is this the demoralizing process that we are talking about here?
It could be. It could fall underneath that, but it falls underneath so many aspects. So many aspects. But one thing that we can be sure of is that the people that make legislature, these so-called lawmakers, remember, they are human, just like me and you.
Of course.
So at a point, it makes sense that they would implement a legislature or a law that can serve their own cause. Because when you look at it, how many times has the system been changed without the acknowledgement of the citizens of a country?
Yes. Yeah.
We can delve into other different topics concerning this, because most people believe that the freedom of charter and whatnot, everything is fair and it's properly restricted and properly managed and everything. But it's not like that. The people that are in power, they basically do what they want to do, to whom they want to do, and however they want to do it. It serves certain agendas. We don't want to go into names here, but each and every one of us, we can say that we know this for real.
Of course, yes. Rachel, hey, my microphone.
Jason.
You want to ask Shadrack your first question?
Yes. Shadrack, in your own view, why do you think we have racism in South Africa?
We've touched on it a bit, but let's hear your view quickly.
Well, in order for a country to be divided and to be conquered, it first has to be that. It has to be divided. And racism can be used as a tool. It can be used as a tool. It's like propaganda can be used as a tool. So within the right minds, the context of racism can be far-reaching. For example, we live in South Africa. We've already been divided. The racial lines are already there. We are the one country that has what? That has the homeland. You remember the Homeland Act? That if
the 1913 Lands Act. But let's for the listeners out there, who created that Lands Act? The 1913 Lands Act.
The government of the time.
But who was the government of the time?
It was the white government.
Okay. The British white government. The British. Cecil Rhodes and his people, they enforced those laws.
True.
Which was the start of the division in this country.
Yes. It was a tool that had to be used in order to segregate the people of South Africa. You can look at things like your border control. Look at border control before, post, prior to 1994.
Pre-94.
Pre-1994.
Yeah.
We had strict border control. We didn't have any illegal immigrants within the country. They were all screened. Now, which is 2018, whereby we live in a free South Africa.
Which is fair. It is a fair,
It's
free
a
South
fair
Africa.
South Africa. It's a South Africa that put down the fences by the border gate and allowed immigrants, illegal immigrants, to bring drugs into the country. And then, okay, I'm going to go a little bit far, and because now we know these drugs have far reached in each and every society. All right.
But what has all this got to do with racism?
All of this, had it not been for tools that were implemented, such as racism, none of this would have gravitated to such a state where it is, because it could have all been controlled.
Through financially, free market, all these words. People from overseas, and that they wanted to own, they basically wanted to own the diamond mines, the gold mines in this country. To me, it's all about that.
And free market, in a sense, free market, is it really a free market whereby a big giant organization can crush somebody that is trying to do the same thing?
Exactly. Who's it a free market to?
Thank you. Is it a free market? Because it looks like it's a dog eat dog world, or a
Yes.
bigger dog will eat a smaller dog that's
Exactly,
trying to
yeah.
get a piece of a steak.
So racism is just used as a scapegoat.
It is. It is.
It's used as a scapegoat.
I mean, we can say racism is it's a figment of our imagination, but it is only portrayed through the acts that we do. Because first it has to start in the human mind. It's not something that you can literally touch with your hands. It's not physical.
And that's the next question, Rachel. You want to ask the next question, Rachel?
Do you believe racism is self-taught?
No. I do not believe that racism is self-taught. Because
I do. I believe racism is self-taught. But let's hear your views and I'll give mine.
all right. Let me say it can be self-taught depending on the indoctrination and the beliefs of a person. Right. But
According to religion and culture.
true. Which were the tools and the elements that were used to introduce racism?
Colonization.
All prior elements that have been
Yes.
stated before. Right. But then now we live in a world whereby today to be a radical is viewed more as, I would say, something that we strive for. And now we've got these radical groups that want to do
Yeah.
radical things. So it escalates. It's like a wave that keeps on escalating. You remember in the food change, we've got records that 25% of the Muslim community, which is 1.2 billion, is the ones that are actually wanting to raise the arms on the world and do all these crazy things. So it makes you think, what is 25% of 1.2 billion?
No, you. My view, okay. This goes way back when I was a child. I was 8 years old and I played in the park. And I played with some black kids, you know. I saw nothing wrong with it until a police van came up and chased us away, you know. The police brought us home and looked at my father and said, you know, in Afrikaans, he said, teach your children right. As a boy of that age, you know, I didn't understand. Growing up, obviously, then you were taught, you went to high school, then you got to see the different picture. And then 1994 happened. Mandela became president and it was like a relief. Finally, you could see people were starting to, the Rainbow Nation, you know, the Rainbow Nation, and join and unity and diversity, you know, and until 2008, things changed. Things changed radically. We went back to the drawing board. And I know there's no such word as reverse apartheid, and it isn't. There is no word. It doesn't exist. But what we experience now in South Africa is that we are going back to what it was back in the apartheid days. And it's wrong. It's totally wrong. Yeah?
I mean, all experts, they gathered around the tables prior to, before we actually got to the first democratic elections. This was some of the things that were debated upon, that how are we going to fix our nation? How are we going to get back to a point whereby we can unify as a nation?
And one of them was when they brought in the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation.
True. That was meant to basically just bring all parties together onto the table and say this. The basic message for Truth and Reconciliation, it was that it was meant to unite the people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
For us to confess, because we all believe in confession, that you know what, whatever is inside of your chest, you need to let it out so that you can breathe a little bit easier. But after that, there's list of cascading events that happened that was not supposed to happen, and then it drifted the nation. It drifted the nation in such an extent that even the so-called celebrities that we're talking about, they fueled it. They fueled it to such an extent because they were all serving their own agendas. Everybody was serving their own agenda, and money was at the bottom of the list. It all was money related.
Yeah.
But that money was at the cost of a nation, because instead of a nation coming together and unifying as one, and us stop seeing this thing of black and white, which is non-existent,
yeah,
we actually revolted back, and then we got this thing instilled within our hearts, and we were scared of the other race. So we were playing into the hands of the puppet makers and the people that were playing this game before.
Yeah, so you got to ask yourself, did the TRC really help us?
To such an extent, it did serve. I would say, like its purpose. But we have to overlook that. For me right now, I'm thinking, what can we do in 2018 that can resolve all the matters that we have at hand? Matters like racism, matters like prejudice, matters like hatred, matters like miscommunication, misunderstandings, because we suffer so much as a nation and we lack the ability to bring us together. And it's quite shameful and sad that the media, we are so focused on watching TV, we are so focused on the internet, but everything there, it's not bringing us together. This is a fact. Like we do not have one forum or a party or somebody that has an agenda to say, you know what, my prime purpose is to make sure that black and white don't see that color. We are all intertwined as one. We still lack somebody to take that responsibility and implement that in 2018. So we are still dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with before 1994. So right now, how can we move forward if we have not yet reconciled properly?
Exactly. Rachel, you want to ask the next question again?
How would you explain the myth of white privilege?
Well,
it's a myth. Why do I call it a myth? Because it shouldn't exist, but
it really doesn't exist.
It really doesn't exist.
Let me make an explanation like this. Somebody that came from, I don't want to use color, that's why I say somebody that comes from England, they come with a mirror. They created a mirror. They invented it. I mean, we are not all gonna think about the same things now, do we? You come to South Africa with a mirror. You've invented it. So to these people, it's a new invention. They're gonna look at it with a new eye. All right.
Yeah.
So to somebody that doesn't know that, would you call that privilege? No.
Okay. I got another video that I want to play, and I want you to watch it. Okay. Maybe this is how people in our country see white privilege. This is what they probably mean by it. Let's play the video quickly.
How does a 23-year-old American girl from New Jersey, college-bound 4 years ago, end up in a remote Himalayan village raising over 200 children who have been orphaned as a result of disease and civil war? My story began exactly 5 years ago when I woke up one morning at 18 years old and had a scary realization. I knew very little about myself and what I wanted in my life. So I packed up a backpack with very few belongings, and I decided to take a trip around the world. I had never really traveled, never left my country. All of a sudden, my whole world opened up. There was so much to learn and so much to discover outside of the walls of a four-walled classroom. I was walking down the road one day when I locked eyes with this little girl. Her name's Laukora. Her job every day was to take loads from the bus park all the way into the villages, and she'd go back and forth all day. She'd make $1, $2 in the day to feed her family. This is the life of a Nepalese orphan. I looked at her and I saw every single piece of myself. And I was devastated. I thought, what have we done as a human family that our children are living this way? I soon kept reading, and I found out that there were 80 million children just like her in the world. And I was devastated. And then I met one particular girl. Her name was Hema, and this is Hema here. She was 7 years old, but every day when I walked to meet her, she'd just smile with these big bright eyes and she'd say, "Namaste, Didi." And I thought for the first time, okay, Maggie, forget the 80 million. What if you just started with hemo? Is there something that you can do to change the life of just one child? And I thought at 18, and as the entrepreneurial mind that I have, okay, I can do that. What if I just supported the education of this one child? How would her life change? And this is Hema a couple of weeks later. I put her into school and followed and tracked her progress. But the sad thing was that I didn't think it was enough. There were kids that didn't have homes and families, and they were orphans. And one day I had this idea. I found a piece of land, and it just happened to be $5,000. And I wanted to build a home for orphan kids, a home and a school and a base. I called up my parents and I said, "Can you send me over my $5,000 of life savings?" I had saved up from the time I was about 6 years old, every penny. I babysat starting from the time I was 12 to when I was 18. And sure enough, they wired over that $5,000, and I bought my first piece of property in Nepal. Change when our children and our women are educated. They have less children, they raise better families, they raise more educated children, their disease, everything decreases, poverty levels, communities and villages change. And the thing about this work that I do is that it's very addicting. So I thought, okay, one kid, if I could do one, why not 10? What if my dream was to walk across this dry riverbed one day and not see a single child breaking stone? That's what I want. I want to create a world that I want to see every day. And I think we have the power to do that. I don't think you have to go 8,000 miles away to the foothills of the Himalayas. I think the beauty of all of us is that we have talents and we have gifts. And this just happened to be mine, and I'm really lucky to have found it and created my little slice of heaven, my little paradise. And I think that the world will change when we all find that for ourselves, where we wake up every day and we wouldn't rather be anywhere else in the world doing any other kind of work. We think of all of the things we don't have instead of the things that we do have. Oh, I could do that if I had more money, once I have my PhD, after I'm settled, after I'm established, after I'm famous. Well, what if everything you had was everything you have right now, your body and your mind, and that sense of, I can do anything.
All right, you saw that video.
Powerful. It's a powerful video.
It's powerful, it is, but everything in it is about privilege. She comes from a wealthy background. She's college, PhD. You heard her talk about PhD.
Yes.
This is the myth that's been created in this country, because people that live in rural areas and township don't have this. We have to ask ourselves, why? Why? Is it really our fault? I'm not using race as an excuse. I refused. I'm not going to use race.
What I got from that video, it's the message of the video says this. Says, get up, do something, help somebody. Right? It doesn't have to be somebody that is famous or somebody that is rich. Try and do something. All right? I mean, how many famous people or how many rich people do we have in the world that do not help the poor?
Those are the greedy ones and the selfish ones.
I mean, if a person decides, this thing, it's a self-realization act. It's a selfless act. She decided that instead of going to a nice place whereby she can chill and hang and have a fun time with her friends, right? What did she decide to do? She decided to go to this place, and then she decided to help this little girl who had no one and nothing. All right, this girl saved $5,000. That's not a lot of money. I've heard.
It's not really.
No, seriously. I've heard that celebrities spend more than $5,000 on drinks.
On an hour.
I've seen a tab. like a bill, a tab, a bar tab. Here in South Africa, there was a club in Senton. The tab went for 47,000 rent.
Yeah,
So you can just imagine if you come there by the location holding
Yeah.
47,000, how many disprivileged people, if I can say that, are you going to be able to help? See, it all boils down to the individual. It's either you are a selfish human being or you are a selfless human being. That's it.
Exactly. So it's taught.
It
Your
is.
indoctrination. Again,
It is.
coming to the previous questions, it's taught.
It's indoctrination.
It's indoctrination.
It's how it's basically what you were taught and how you were taught to implement it.
Yeah, okay, but now I just wish we can just drive away from the word privilege, man. I mean, privilege is something that we all can have, but we don't have it because of the political correctness that we're trying to imply in countries, not just ours, but all over. And I mean, Africa as a whole, Ethiopia, Angola, Libya. Check what's happening in Libya at the moment.
Zimbabwe.
Okay, Zimbabwe. We know exactly. People are eating rats as a delicacy. But Libya is also, there's slavery. Slavery's come back in Libya. Why? Why is also? I mean, it's just so unfair, man.
Then we go back to the markets. We go back to the markets, and then it's quite shocking. It's quite shocking to find a big enterprise. I don't want to say names. An enterprise that you buy their stock almost all the time, but then you would find that this enterprise has been implicated in child labor. And the only time people will focus on that is when it's on the media. But then it quickly gets out of their brains. So I would say we live in a nation whereby we are only focused on self. We are self-focused because we don't want to focus on what the other person is going through. I mean, it's crazy. Look at what the situation in Nigeria is, all right? And in Nigeria, you can have a shack, and then next to that shack, next door to the shack, you can have a mansion. You realize how far-reaching those implications are. It's lunacy. When you really think about it, it's lunacy. It doesn't make sense. So such little things, I always say go back to the basics in order for you to avoid the big disasters that you're going to have. Because the basics, if you've got discipline and you've got respect, those are the basics that you need to have: self-discipline and respect. There's a whole lot of havoc that you're going to be able to avert in the future just because you've got the right basics. So we live in a world whereby you are taught that respect, it's something that you shouldn't have. That care, it's something that you should not have. This is the world that we're living in. We live in a dog-eat-dog world.
Yeah, and there's different ideologies out there.
True.
And what we're experiencing at the moment in this country is a bit of capitalism, a bit of communism. Fascism? Not really. Not really. What other ideologies are busy being practiced in this country? But more capitalism, socialism.
Capitalism and socialism. Capitalism and socialism are the two things that are really, really, really killing this country at this point.
Socialism's killed countries like Venezuela, countries in Brazil. You didn't check what happened now. The Brazilian public voted out the previous president by 50%, 56% majority vote. I don't know. I shared it on my Facebook page. I forgot the name now. But yeah, hoping that things will go right in that country now. But I don't know. It's money.
Speaking of these political disputes, I remember this political dispute that happened in South Africa, whereby we took out one president that brought us into, I would say, an economical thrive, and then we bought somebody that literally killed us.
Killed us, yeah.
Literally.
Socialism is working in a country like Canada. But why is it working in a country like Canada? Because the majority of the people there are educated.
True.
It's sad to say this, and I've spoken in my previous podcasts with Petrus, that our pass rate, what's the matric pass rate now? 30%?
Yes.
Is socialism going to work with a 30% pass rate?
I don't know how socialism is going to work on this, but it's crazy. It's It's
No,
totally
it's not
crazy.
going to work because the skills that we had in this country has just gone out the door.
True.
It's gone out the door. I'm worried about our future for the doctors and the lawyers that we're going to have in this country, because we're still going to employ people from overseas rather than employing our own youth. Hey, worried about that.
And talking about employing our own youth, the level of experience that they do have, what do they bring onto the table? Understand? Because looking at the educational system of South Africa, knowing that if I can even get straight A's from South Africa, like I'm a straight A student from South Africa, but I'm not going to be accepted at Harvard, it says a lot of things.
That does, yeah.
It says a lot of things. It's demoralizing.
It is, and also with me and my son, if he gets his grades, if he's got high grades, is he going to get a job of choice? BEE? Again, racism. Racism is brought into it. I know a lot of people are disagreeing with it because BEE was supposed to reduce the wealth gap in this country and let everybody have a fair chance in having a career.
That's very true. And then it was a tool that was also used to provide what? Corruption?
Corruption, it became a corruption tool.
To sniffing out funds from the government into these so-called non-existent institutes that now have got money, and then our government doesn't.
But let's not say BEE is not working. It is working because research has shown that, you know, we're coming back to the Land Act, land expropriation thing. 730,000 houses are owned by white people, and over 4 million houses are owned. I could stand out of correction. I could be wrong, but I know it's over 4 million black people that do own houses. So, in a sense, in essence, it is working. BEE is working.
You know, BEE was one of the ploys and the tools that was supposed to, like you said, equalize the playing field.
Equality.
But we get these people, or I would say we get these leaders that take it a little bit far, you know, instead of the depending on the corruption that is happening right now within our country. We are one country whereby we are viewed as a threat in terms of investing in it, because most investors don't want to invest in South Africa.
Yeah, our GDP is suffering
because of corruption. And then when you look at it, right now it's what, 2018? You said when we opened the show it's 2018, but the gross domestic product of the country still comes back from the farmers. And it's white farmers. It's a fact. It's white farmers that are bringing in the money into the country.
Yeah, but there's also black farmers. I've seen a few, and they're productive.
True. That's very true.
Productive, and it's awesome. It's awesome to see that.
That is very true. But the point that I'm trying to get across is this: you've got this happening in 2018, but then there is so much of the black corruption, the colluding that is happening behind the scenes. And I'm a black man, and most of this corruption is done by black people. So it makes me question the integrity sometimes of my people. Like, what values do we stand by? Do we even have integrity? Like we're talking about self-discipline,
morality,
the question of the
discipline, ethics. These are the things that have not been taught in the youth. Me and you, we spoke about it. We're in the car god business, and I employ car gods, and you know, Shadrack, I help car gods, and when we do parades in the morning, we speak about these type of things, and I speak. How many times have I touched the subject of morality? Plenty of times.
Countless
of times.
Countless times.
Because I want to teach people about the differences between right and wrong, putting them on that path. We've had countless car gods that have left us and got other jobs, become supervisors. I've even had one car god that became a manager. And I won't take credit for myself, because a lot of my car gods and the supervisors, I mean, you were a supervisor, you helped them too. We helped them. And I mean, recently, what's a car god we just took recently on, what was his name?
Kopano.
Kopano. I called him that. I tried with him. I really tried. And I wanted to change his mindset and help him. But the drugs, the dacha that he was smoking, I couldn't get through to him,
The consciousness of a person is very hard to get to, because, like they say in therapy, the only one that can be helped is the one that will help themselves. So for one to say I want to better myself, it's an act that first has to start with discipline, self-discipline. You have to consciously take the decision, your mind, and you have to figure out strategies on how you are going to implement this. Then it triggers. Somebody said something that you do once becomes it's a bother to you. Like something that you have to do once, but you have to do it consistently.
Persistent.
You
That persistence in you.
It's
You have to
bother.
be persistent,
It's
yeah.
boring. It's boring. It's the same thing as your wife says, leave your sandals outside the house before you come inside. First week, it's bad. The second week is still bad. But it becomes a habit. And once it's a habit, it's not so bothering, because you're gonna get to the door and then you're gonna do what? The right thing.
Yeah, and I've started exercising, but one day I exercise, the other day I'm not. But it's something that you need to motivate yourself on. You know, I need to lose this tummy that I got. Hey, Rachel.
That's how we need to start programming our minds as people. That we need to have something that we can aspire to. That you need to have rules and regulations. And people, when I say rules and regulations, I'm not talking about drinking in your car. That's bad. Like, you know that. That's not allowed.
Yeah.
It's not that. I'm talking about rules and regulations that you put within your heart. You know, do the right thing. Don't just say, I'm going to do this because somebody is expecting me to do it. And when I say this, I hope it gets to the ears of my leaders out there that are implementing the legislature and the laws of this country. Do the right thing because it's the right thing.
Of course it is.
You see, the basics get back to bite us. The basics will always make you
Always.
do the right thing. If you are self-disciplined and you've got respect, you are more or less likely to do the right thing compared to somebody who's a lunatic.
Of course. I agree with it. Rachel, you want to shoot the next question?
Okay. Can white privilege be associated?
No, we've asked it. Number five. Okay. Number 4, sorry, yeah. Okay.
Can white privilege be associated with racism and bigotry?
We've touched on it now.
We've already touched based on this.
We've touched base on it.
It
Yeah.
has to relate with indoctrination and then I would say self-realization and self-consciousness. That's where it basically
Yeah,
has
but
to.
I think there was a reason why I wanted Rachel to ask that question, because again, coming back to demoralization, where somebody that lives in a rural area that doesn't have the funds to go to college in it, and he will look at the white man and he'll say about, you've got a big car, you've got a big house. And just like I've mentioned now, 730,000 white people owning houses and over 4 million, it's incorrect. It's totally incorrect. It should not be associated with racism and bigotry. It should not. Because we as car guards, we are seeing it with customers, and we've seen it on all colors on the race card.
True.
A customer
True.
stops there.
True. I mean, we live. How many races? We've got black. We've got Indians. We've got white people. We've got Muslims. There's so many people that live in the country, and like we said, this thing has to first go with self-realization and indoctrination, right? So these things, they correlate. They go hand in hand. So it's like building a very, very tall skyscraper.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
There's levels and sanctions to it. But they all intertwine to form this one massive structure.
Exactly. Rachel, next question. Closer, Rachel.
Why do politicians say a black man cannot be racist?
Now, this question is associated with number 4.
I think basically I'm gonna answer you like a primary student would. It's because most black politicians believe that racism is only white-sided. People don't think that racism can come from other races. So
Thank
that's
you.
why
Yeah.
they had to come up with, I would say, frivolous terms like reverse racism. It's not racism is racism. It's true. If you think you are better, if you think you are more valuable, or you see yourself better off or better than, then that's racism. It doesn't matter whether you are black, blue, yellow. If
But
you've got those
that's what it
beliefs.
boils down to. Why they say that? Why a black man can't be racist? Because of privilege.
But then again, I'm gonna point out something. They would say that in order for them not to be investigated, in order for them to be portrayed as though they are still part of us, and then them are still them.
Scapegoating. Scapegoating. I love that word, scapegoating. It is. It's scapegoating. It's just a scapegoat.
I mean, these people, for a politician, how many people does a politician influence? You realize that this person probably comes from a township somewhere. He's recognized throughout that whole entire township. So it's scapegoating, meaning he does not want to answer the questions that are asked, but he's gonna revert back to, you are white and I'm black. So in that case, there's no reverse racism. You are a racist. You are what you are.
Oh, this microphone of mine's giving me problems. Hello, can you hear me? It's the same when we clamp a car for people that park on a disabled bay. And I don't always like that, because when you clamp the car, then the guy that comes at the client, he looks at me and he says, did you clamp my car because I'm black?
True.
I don't entertain it. I walk away. It's crazy, man.
It's true. I mean, and then again, living in a world whereby we scrutinize everything. I mean, how many people have handheld devices these days that can put anything on the social media? All right. So for a person that's got a family,
that's the main reason. I don't want to avoid that, because I don't want to get into a confrontation with him, because people are so quick to take out their cell phones and they record you. I mean, I train this with my car gods. Don't entertain the fight. If the customer starts fighting with you, just walk away.
Take the higher ground.
Take the higher ground, because someone's going to take a cell phone and record it, goes on social media. Oh, and then you've got a PR nightmare.
Which is
Hey?
the penny sparrow.
Rachel, you want
The last one.
Yeah.
How do customers in the car park treat you as a car guard?
Well, I deal with all types of customers. I would say I deal with poor people that have cars, and then rich people that do have cars, people that drive the most fanciest of cars, people that drive the most crappiest of cars. But what I've managed to teach myself is this: treat the person as the customer that they are. It's gonna be the reflection that you're gonna have to judge, because the thing is, racism is not financially instituted. First of all, there's people that have money that are racist, and then there's people that don't have money that are racist. Same thing on the other side. There's people that have money that are open-hearted, and then there's people that don't have money that are open-hearted. But one thing that I've always managed to see is that I open more to the people that open unto me. I do get treated like the scum of the universe, and then there's some people that will come up to me and then ask me about my own views, about how I feel about certain things. Then I can talk more about how I feel and how these things connect unto me. Then we can have an actual conversation. One thing I would say to this is, customers treat me just like a car guard up until they do have a conversation with me.
Yeah,
because that's when they start seeing that this car guard is an actual human being.
Absolutely.
That was given birth unto, that had to grow up, that had to look at things that they wanted to emulate. And then life is life. I mean, Jesus. I think even Jesus does not know the judgment day. His father does. It goes to show you that life is full of uncertainties and unexpectancies. All right. But we can just rely on love. Love is a powerful thing. It's a powerful resource. I mean, I experience more hatred than I do love. But for those that do give love, I give 100% back.
Yeah, no, I train car gods, and I tell them, customer service is number one, You're going to get those car gods, those customers out there that say, Leave me. I've got a license. You don't have to help me.
I've got a tracker.
I've got a tracker.
Is your tracker gonna tell you?
I've got insurance. That's where bigotry comes in again. That's customers with bigotry.
Or,
really.
Or I'm driving the latest Jeep that has a rear and front camera. But then again, somebody's gonna come with the most expensive car compared to that Jeep, and then they're gonna look at you and make you feel like a king.
Yeah.
It goes to show you that, you know what, in this life, it's all about what people believe in. There's people that believe in hatred. There's people that believe in so many stupid things.
Okay.
But there are those ones that are a rare find.
Yeah.
They are a rare find. And for those ones, I take off my hat to them.
Yeah.
Because each and every day, for those few people, I have a bread, I've got a meal for my family. I've been supporting my family for the last 5 years as a
It's an honest job. Car guarding is an honest job. But in my experience, my personal experience, what I've seen over the years with car guarding, you get those customers that are arrogant, ignorant, you know, the rude ones. But I always, and I've tried this test over and over, and I tell my car guards, keep on trying. Keep on trying. Just keep on greeting the customer. Show you a better. Our number one rule, or okay, it's not number one, but it's part of the rules. If a customer swears you, do not swear back.
Buy a donkey.
Just, I know it's degrading. You feel discriminated. But by keeping on, sooner or later, you win that customer's heart. Eh?
Thank you.
No, so you win that customer's heart.
That's true.
And then after a couple of months, he gives you a 10 rand tip. And you're like, wow, what happened now? But don't show your emotions. Keep your emotions. As soon as that customer drives away, then you walk him and you go, thank you, Lord. I won this customer's heart. And then when you see that customer the next time, what happens? How are you, Shadrack? Yeah, long time no see, man. Hey, did you watch the soccer the weekend or you watch the rugby? You know what I mean?
That's perfect. What you just said right now is perfect. People have always said this. They said, when you get paid, you are supposed to take 10% of your salary. That's supposed to be given back and what?
That's religion. That's religion. Yeah.
Understand this. When you do a good deed, it does not have to do with money. All right, you can help somebody by being what you are.
Yes.
All right, you can help somebody by doing what you do.
Yes, of course.
That you can do.
Of course.
I was listening to an interview. A gentleman said this. Said, when you sweep, when you're a street sweeper, God, it's not you. For you to do anything in life, you have to realize that there's a greater power. All right.
Yeah.
Sure. But be the best that you can be. All right. If I'm a car guard, not if, okay, in this actual state, I am a car guard. All right. When I go to work, I don't belittle myself.
Yeah.
All right. I look at all the people that don't have what I have. People that are going through what I'm supposed to be. But then I'm so blessed to be standing here. There's so much that is happening there in the locations that I just don't even want to get into it. Don't even want to get into it.
No, but I know the whole history. Why the crime and that's so violent.
On the line, when you stand there on the line and I've got all these cars, I do the best of my physical abilities. I try and be as helpful as I can. To even the so-called a-holes, I am.
No, say it. Assholes.
No,
assholes.
You try to be nice. You know why? You know why you try to be nice? Because you want this person to realize that in spite of the hatred that is within your heart and within your eyes, realize that there's love on earth. And I'm going to show you that love, whether you like it or not.
But how can we do this? How can we show the people of South Africa this love?
Persistence, and soul searching. The person has to be educated from the inside.
I mean, I know why, because this is the reason why I'm doing this podcast, and this is why I've invited you to do this podcast with me, because I want people to hear this and take this in and think to themselves, you know what, those two are right. That's what I want. That's what I want from all this.
How many times have we overemphasized the power of positivity on the parade? People take this for granted. People everywhere. Like, okay, there's a few margin that really takes this to consideration. Positivity. There is something within you that you emit to the rest of the world if you are positive. All right. That's why I say within a small act me as a car guy, I can teach somebody that drives a Maserati that you don't have to be an asshole.
Or a Ferrari or a Porsche.
Whatever. Did I come on earth with a Ferrari or Porsche? No.
No.
We all came naked. All right. And that's it. We were all born without no earthly or like gifts or nothing. All right. That's what we were born with. We were only born with voice, your eyes, your nose, all of that. That's what we were born with.
Absolutely.
So it goes to show you that God, like everything in life, it's very measured. All right. So there's none that is above and there is none that is low. That's how I treat people.
Okay. Shadrack, you live in the Lukasi.
The location. You know about
the location, townships.
The townships.
How do you humble yourself? I mean, you're living without electricity.
True.
You worked hard on the house that you got.
I did.
Through RDP, eh?
I did. I had to work my bones off.
How do you humble yourself? But what is the message? Okay, we have touched base on it a lot, but how do you humble yourself? I mean, I respect you. I respect you for that.
I think my inspiration, the question is, what's my inspiration? What makes you get out of bed each and every day? It's life. In that sense, it's life. I look at life as amazing. You know, like human beings, we are the most interesting creatures on earth.
Yeah.
All right. The funny thing about us human beings is that cows get along, rabbits get along, all animals get along, except for us.
Except for human beings.
Except for human beings.
Except for human beings.
I don't think a black and white cow has called a white cow racist.
Never.
Or seen that color. But then we happen, we are the epitome of the consciousness of earth. All right. No other creature here on earth has done what we did. Right now, the earth is going through a global warming because of us. All right. So we can safely say we are intelligent.
Global warming is also a myth. Sorry to burst your bubble. It's also a myth, global warming.
But we're not gelling. That's what I'm trying to say. That we're not getting along. There's so many constricts. There's so many things that you gotta go through just to get through the burial lines or the racial lines, which is BS ultimately.
Bullshit. Just say bullshit.
Bullshit.
No, but say bullshit. Say what it is. It's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit. Say what it is. Bullshit.
The bull is crappy. All right.
Rachel, again, I'm rude. Oh, I'm getting dizzy now.
It's fine. It was actually a privilege to listen to Shadrack.
It was, eh?
He was inspiration today.
This is awesome. But this is why I invited Shadrack here. Because we've had countless discussions like this. Countless. Shadrack, how long
it was a privilege.
How long are we working together now?
I mean, we have had this discussion ever since we met.
Yeah.
We had it in passing. I think it's one of the things that brought us together. And then now, we're just gelling on world issues. We're just gelling on racism. We're just gelling on economics. We're just gelling on history.
Yeah, I think we've there's just so much to talk about. I think we just get bored. We're talking politics.
It's true. It's true. Then this relationship that I do have with this gentleman, it should, in a sense, teach us that, you know what, friendship goes beyond colors, goes beyond race. So if anything, that is proof enough for us to start being open-minded. I mean, how many times, or you wanna die up until you learn that you're living your life brainwashed?
I've said this to you before. Social Darwinism gets the blame for this.
Very true.
Social Darwinism created this allegory that has to be different classes: poor class, middle class, rich class. And by saying so, it's like because I'm rich, I can't associate with you being poor, because your brain length is not the same as mine. So we can't intervene and discuss the same matters of the heart. Yeah. Why is it there? I don't know. And in this country, in South Africa, it's not getting any better because our education system is just falling apart. Our justice system is failing us over and over again. Our hospitals are failing us. Corruption is just making everything fall apart. And hope, the word hope is just not there anymore. what's the word I want to use now that leads to hope? I forgot the word. I can't, because I think this is all getting to me now. It's bringing us down. We get emotional. But Shadrack, okay, let's just leave it at that now. Okay, I think we've discussed enough. I'm happy. It was an awesome discussion. This, Rachel. Is there anything else you want to ask, Shadrack?
No, there's nothing. No, it was a good talk.
Shadrack, nothing you else want to say?
Just in an ending, just let's all be open-minded. Let's look a little bit deeper. Let's not look at what we are told. Let's not listen to what we are told. Let's not do what we are told.
Yeah.
You know, like, be a person, be a human being. Open your mind.
Yeah, it's difficult because you got left-wing politics and right-wing politics. Left-wing politics is where the government says, I will look after you, I will nurture you. Where right-wing politics is about individualism. Go out there and make it happen for yourself.
You see, that statement, it encapsulates what the government wants to do, which is divide and conquer. All right?
Yeah.
But the basics, which I said, it's self-discipline, respect, those are, and values, morality, you know, a humble heart. Those are the things that we need. So before you can listen to somebody that will bring you 40 million thousand facts about anything, just consult your heart first and go with what feels right.
Absolutely.
And your heart knows wrong from right. So
absolutely, yeah.
You are more or less likely to do the right thing compared to the person that you're listening to.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Shadrack, thank you, my man. I appreciate it. I shall see you tomorrow at work.
It's been a pleasure, and I will serve my customers as best as I can.
Absolutely. Sharp. Cheers, eh?
Hey, tada boza.
Couples Debate with Jason and Rachel.